I'm Emily Taylor, and I'm so excited for this webinar tonight. This shows you the outline that we are going to be following this evening. And we're going to show you this outline regularly as we go through the presentation. So before I continue on and we start with introductions and all the things we're going to be doing tonight, I wanted to go over a quick few rules that are going to be important because we have such a big crowd here tonight. So first of all, there's going to be a chance later on for us to hear from you, but during the presentation, we'd like you to keep your mic muted until we invite you to unmute. And that's going to be so that everyone can then hear us talking instead of background noise. Regarding your camera, you can keep that off or on. That's fine with us either way. And if you have questions about the snakes, about the science you're hearing about, things like that, we want you to go ahead and type those out in the chat. We have a moderator who is watching those tonight, and they're going to keep track of some of those and then ask us those questions during Q&A part so we can answer those. And then at the very end, when we have time, we will invite you to ask questions again if we didn't have a chance to answer those. And then finally, another rule of the evening tonight is please no speculation or discussion of the den's location in the chat. As everyone here probably knows, it's very, very important to us that we keep the location of the den secure for the safety of the snakes and also for the privacy of the landowners. And so if anyone does any discussion of the den's location, then we're gonna have to remove you from the webinar, which we don't wanna do. So I hope you're all ready to go. This is gonna be really fun. Okay, just a reminder to stay to the end because at the end of this, we're gonna be telling you a very exciting announcement. All right, so I would like to start with introductions. So first of all, my name is Emily Taylor, and I'm a professor at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California, USA, where I've been there for 20 years.
I am Max Roberts. I'm a second-year master's student here working on Project RattleCam.
And I'm Owen Bachhuber, and I'm also a second-year master's student working on Project RattleCam. And that's me.
I should have done this. There's Owen and Max. And then you heard from me, Emily, and the first person who's going to be speaking to you tonight is Dr. Scott Boback. And I'm going to let him introduce himself to you because he's going first talking about thirsty snakes. So Dr. Boback, go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. All right, sharing my screen. Okay. Can y'all see that okay? Does that look good? Just give me thumbs up. It's great. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. This is really exciting. So my name's Scott Boback. I am a professor at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I've been here for, this is my 18th year. And so Dickinson is a small college. It's a all undergraduate institution. So I teach classes from introductory biology to ecology to evolution and teach classes on natural history of vertebrates as well. So yeah, I have been doing research with snakes for several years, but have not really been focused on rattlesnakes until relatively recently. But I'd like to talk to you today, just introduce this this awesome beast that many of you have had a chance to watch over the course of the last several months. So I'm going to be talking about prairie rattlesnakes and rain harvesting. So first off, many of you have had an opportunity to see this animal up close like this from this absolutely amazing technology. And so you've seen some things. Some of you that are on here are actually educated in snake behavior and lots of other things about herpetology and snakes. But in order to really introduce this subject, the prairie rattlesnake, I think it's important really to just look at a timeline of what it is like for a rattlesnake and in a year of their life. So starting in the very early spring in April, prairie rattlesnakes will come out of their dens. Now this is a little variable, but it's generally in April. And then through May and even into June, the rattlesnakes, as they come out, they spend a period of 2 to 4 weeks sort of laying in front of the den before they start to disperse towards the end of May and into June. Now, on the other side of this timeline is this green circle indicating the gravid females do something very different than males and non-gravid or non-pregnant females. The females that are pregnant or gravid, they migrate a very short distance from the den to what we refer to as a rookery. This is a place where all the females that are pregnant aggregate. And like I said, many of you have had a chance to watch these females hang out together all summer long. And hang out very close to the den. The dog days of summer bear on. The males and non-gravid females are out in their what we call the foraging range. And so they've dispersed many kilometers away from the den. Some of them in some parts of their range will go over 10 kilometers away from the den to find food and eat some distance away from the den. Eventually, in August and September, we believe that there's mating that goes on. Now, in other rattlesnake species, we know a lot more about the timing of mating. We have not seen this directly, although on the cameras this summer we saw a lot of activity. Thor was a central component of the live stream, and certainly he was hanging around with those females and other snakes back at the rookery. The females, of course, as many of you had seen, give birth in middle to late August through September, and they give birth at those rookeries and hang out together. Eventually, in October, as we are right now, the snakes go back underground and go back into hibernation. And so if we look at the other months, November, December, January, February, and March, those snakes continue to stay underground for what we believe to be about 5 months of inactivity underground. Now, they do move around a little bit underground. At least other species have shown this. We're not entirely sure whether prairie rattlesnakes do a lot of movement once they go underground, but we do know that the cycle will start again sometime in April. So back in 2019, 2020, we started to use cameras to monitor the snakes outside of these dens and rookeries. And Emily and I started to work together on this project. And I told her that, we have a lot of these cameras, we have a lot of photos. And so we started to talk about what kinds of things we could observe in front of the den. And I think Emily was out. I think she had to teach a class one time. And so I went out and I grabbed some SD cards out of the cameras. I came back and I downloaded them. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I couldn't wait for Emily to get back from, I think she was teaching a class in town, and she came back out. And this is what we saw. So this is a rookery. And this is a time-lapse photography. So again, this is not like video like you were able to see this summer. And so these are snapshots that are taken every 5 minutes apart from one another. and a number of the neonates were out, and then lo and behold, it started to rain, and we saw this massive number of snakes kind of coming out and coiling up and doing what we thought was what's been referred to as rain harvesting behavior. So we didn't, I had never seen this before. So I was going crazy. Emily was quite surprised as well. And so what I did then is what all good scientists do is I went and I looked up some information about rain harvesting, and I started to read about this. And it turns out that rain harvesting is done by several squamate species. Squamates are lizards and snakes combined. And specifically, a lot is known more from lizards. So the Texas horned lizard, which is native to the southwestern parts of the United States, and the thorny devil in Australia. These are two convergent lizards, meaning that they look very similar to one another, but they're not necessarily closely related. Both of these species collect rain on their backs, and scientists have actually done some pretty detailed studies to look at the skin of these lizards, and they found that there were channels in the skin of these lizards that helped to direct the water from their backs towards their mouths. And you might be able to see here that this is an image of a thorny devil here. And these arrows are supposed to be on the outside of the lizard. They're not on the inside, even though it kind of sort of looks like it. But what happens is the rain falls on the outside of the lizard, and through a series of capillary action, the water can move against gravity and move up into the lizard's mouth, and they can swallow the water. So this is the precedent that I found, and so I thought that it would be something that we should go ahead and start to investigate. So some students and I and Emily and her team started to study the rain harvesting in these snakes. And what we did is we simulated rainfall using a garden sprayer, and then videotaped the snakes collecting rain. And what we saw was that the snakes responded exactly the way we saw in the photographs. So when we would approach them, we would be hiding sort of behind in bushes and trying not to disturb the snake or alert them to our presence. So we would often be shooting the water from a good distance away. And then I had that 300 millimeter lens so we could stay back pretty far. And when the rain would hit the snake, they would do this. And they would pancake out their bodies and turn into basically little teacups to be able to collect and pool the water on their surface so that they could drink it. Again, this is one of the wonderful things that many of you were able to see this summer, were a huge number of the snakes collecting rain in front of the live camera. This is a very short video. I don't have too much time tonight, and I don't want to take up too much time from other people. But this is a very sped up video of a snake being sprayed. And I just wanted to show it to you because it shows the extent to which they do this compression of their body. When that rain hits them, they can just compress their bodies out a significant amount to be able to increase the amount of surface area to be able to catch the rain. And then another thing that we started to notice, though, was that the snakes were often sometimes underneath a overhang, and those snakes were able to get the water to hit them on the head, and then they were drinking it off of each other. Now, the important thing is that these animals are not showing any antagonistic behavior at all. One of them is not upset in any way that they're their friend over there is drinking off of them. They continue to drink, and then they would go back and forth, sort of taking a drink off of each other. In addition, notice that they're drinking off of their heads and not necessarily drinking on their bodies, which are still quite sheltered underneath those overhangs. And they're just kissing each other, for crying out loud. So this snake I want to show is one that is perched up sort of on some rocks, a talus slope. And you'll be able to see how this snake sort of projects its body out from the surface of the rocks, essentially sort of cantilevering out from the rock surface. And here's a sped up version to show you how they can create that flat surface so that they can adequately catch that rainfall. Now, what I'm going to show you here is I'd like the snake is drinking water here, but some of the water is still dripping. I want you to pay attention to the back part of the snake. So do you see that there, that the snake is seemingly doing some kind of movement that potentially would be pulling the water to the other side of its body towards its head. So that's all I wanted to mention today. It's just a little bit about the rain harvesting. I'll try to catch up in the chat here to see if there's any questions, but thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. We can answer one question right now. We have time for that. Tanya, is there a question for Dr. Boback right now?
There's not a question that's specific to Dr. Boback, but there were a few questions.
Let's save those for the end then.
Fine.
When we have more conversations about general stuff, and we'll go ahead for now.
Sure.
All right. All right, so you should be seeing my screen again now. All right, so now we're going to move on, and I'm going to talk for a little while about the history of the live stream. So like Scott just showed a few minutes ago, we were working together at various sites through Colorado on these time-lapse images that we were putting up. And then that kind of formed the basis for what we wanted to do with the live cam. So first of all, our logo for Project RattleCam. It's very cute and very creative, I think, of course, showing this mother rattlesnake and her little cute babies. And of course, some people would say, oh, you're anthropomorphizing the snake, or you're not showing how snakes really are. But I want to actually do a little thought exercise here about how, for a lot of you who've watched these snakes over the summer, this silly comic here is actually a lot more accurate than most of the things that we do see on TV or on YouTube about rattlesnakes, isn't it? Snakes sitting together, hanging together, mothers sitting with their babies or babysitting for other snakes is something that we see a lot, whereas we don't see things like this, right? Mostly when we're looking on YouTube or on TV, it's really sensationalized negative imagery. And this is something that, as a biologist who has been lucky enough to witness the truth about rattlesnakes for so long, has really upset me that people are only seeing this side of them, about their dangerous side, right? The side of what happens if you get too close to a rattlesnake or if you mess with a rattlesnake. And this has very real consequences for an animal that I love. And again, maybe I'm preaching to the choir here. All of you at least like rattlesnakes as well, or have grown to love them like I do. But if not, you can kind of picture your favorite animal right now and think about what it would be like if they were subjected to some terrible things. And so even today, there are rattlesnake roundups in Texas and Oklahoma where thousands of rattlesnakes are captured and kept in deplorable conditions, and of course, eventually killed. But not just that, children are taught to really be a part of this slaughter. I mean, they dip their hands in the snake's blood and make handprints that they sign on the wall. That's just not right. This is not the right way to be teaching our future kids about wildlife. no matter what you might think about rattlesnakes. And so Project RattleCam is really about trying to right the wrongs of many of these groups and people who portray rattlesnakes in a negative way, and for the benefit of people who have never seen them in nature, who have never seen how they actually are. And so that's why we, like Dr. Boback said, really are dedicated to this concept of loving the unloved. And for me, it goes beyond snakes. It's about the underdog. It's about the animal that really can't speak for itself. And it's really our job as someone who can to speak for them. And so it's kind of ironic if you think about it, because rattlesnakes are actually really important in things like rodent control, disease control that goes along with those rodents. Those rodents carry diseases. They even disperse seeds that, the little pocket mouse has its mouth as its cheeks full of seeds that its digestive tract would kill. But when the rattlesnake eats the mouse, no more digestion of the seeds. And then the rattlesnake eventually poops out the seeds in a little pile of fertilizer, helping to disperse those seeds. And then inspiration for drugs. There's a number of drugs on the market that are saving human lives that are made from rattlesnake venom. And yet they have this really bad rap, okay? And so the inspiration for this RattleCam, both the time-lapse images and then eventually the live stream, came from my mentor, Dr. Harry Green, who is a very, very famous rattlesnake biologist. And he basically had told me, his experience was that if people would actually get out there, if they could get out there and see wild rattlesnakes actually behaving naturally, doing their thing, it would blow their mind. But of course, it's hard to get people out there, right? We can't take people to the rattlesnakes because it might be that, they tell someone where it is, and the secret spot gets out there, and then someone who has no love for rattlesnakes comes and ruins it for us all. Or there's a lot of people who just can't get out there, right? And so our idea was, to bring the rattlesnakes to them. And it came to me one day when I was watching my favorite bird nest cam, which is the peregrine falcon cam on UC Berkeley, which is my alma mater. And I thought, wait a minute, why do all the birds have all the fun? Why should we only have webcams on birds and things like bears? We need to have one on snakes. And so that's exactly what we did. We did start with some test runs in California, and some of you have been around to watch those. But tonight we're talking about the Colorado megaden. And let's just face it, the California den, it's been fun, but it was always a practice nearby locally to do to perfect the technology that was necessary for the Colorado one, right? So what I'm going to do now is just show you a few photos of us installing the cameras before we go back to hearing about some more science and some more of our discoveries in the making. All right, so here is our Colorado camera. This is kind of looking back at what you've all been looking out of for the past few months. This is the top of the line security camera from Axis. It's about a $5,000 camera. And it has night vision, as you all know, so you can see at night. And it just has the most incredible detail that we can see these animals in. You all know that this is remote controlled via cellular. So we sit here in our laptops in California controlling this camera, and it's all streamed to YouTube so that you can watch with us and can ask us to zoom in on that snake over there, etc. And I want to just stop right now and say that not only was the fact that it's on snakes one of the main things about this that was really novel, but the fact that we actually explicitly took the time to make that chat a major component of RattleCam is very deliberate. A lot of the other cams don't have a chat, or they don't have a chat that is monitored. We wanted to do that because we wanted to interact with you and answer questions and help to demystify rattlesnakes. I can't explain to you the amount of effort that went in. Owen and Max spent a lot of time this summer organizing huge groups of Cal Poly undergrads to do this. It was exhausting, and it was absolutely wonderful and a privilege to get to know so many of you. It takes a lot of power. This is my handsome husband showing the massive 4x8 solar array that powers the whole thing. This is going to be attached to winter-proof batteries that, again, are very, very fancy so that they can be under several feet of snow and kick back up in the spring. This shows you some of the gear. A lot of gear had to get dragged up there by a lot of people to put together to make this all happen. And then finally, there's me, yours truly. Some of you who have been used to seeing the site, off to the right is where the clown car and the annex are. So you're seeing these kind of from a different point of view here. The scale is going to be funny when you see some of these photos because everything looks bigger on the camera than it actually is. And so putting this all together was all from scratch. Most of the webcams that you see have power, they have Wi-Fi, but we had to do this all via cellular connection. And it was pretty incredible. When we went to do the install in the spring, we tried to go early enough that there wouldn't be any snakes out because one of the engineers who helped me design this and went out there doesn't like rattlesnakes and was scared of rattlesnakes. Oops, there's a few of them out already. But we, walked around those very carefully, and we gave ourselves 5 days to do the install. And on 2 of those 5 days, we had blizzard conditions. So the snakes were obviously not out on those days, but we'd go back the next day and there'd be patches of snow. And then in the places where the snow melted, the snakes would come out. So there I am in my winter boots, freezing cold. And as you can see, just a big pile of snakes coming out for their first basking of the year. So here is the team of the people who designed and installed all these. At left is Rob, in the middle is Doug, and on the right is Kevin behind me with my big fat grin. So excited. This is really a unique thing we have at my university, our design and fabrication facility. They built, traveled with me, installed, and to this day help troubleshoot every last bit of it. So just huge thanks to them for doing what they did. You will be seeing some more behind the scenes later in the webinar. But for now, right, this is the kind of thing we saw. Remember when it was so green like this in the spring? We put it out, we went home, and we were starting to watch the garter snake zoomies, right? This is back in the spring when there was lots of garter snakes there all over the rattlesnakes. So since then, we've had about 2.5 million views, just, tons of 15,000 subscribers, 200,000 watch hours, and dozens of international media articles about this, helping to show people the true nature of rattlesnakes. And of course, doing some amazing science on the way. So just a reminder again to stay to the end. And now we're going to take some time for the 2 graduate students who are doing their master's degrees with data collected on these this live stream to tell you just a little bit about their research. So first, we're going to start with Owen talking about snake social behavior.
And we're just gonna shimmy around the couch. And I am running the camera. So could you watch the camera while I give my little spiel? Speaking of how much we run the camera, we're running it right now. So for my master's thesis, I'm looking at the social behaviors of the snakes that we see on the RattleCam, particularly our moms and babies. And I want to just kind of introduce that topic by thinking about how are these groups of snakes structured, right? This is an example of what we would call a social network. And we could see we have big snakes, medium snakes, little snakes that are all connected in different ways of how much time they spend with each other. And we can think about who are these snakes to each other? Are they friends? Are they family? Are they daughters, sisters? What are their relationships with each other? Why are they spending time with each other like this? So that's kind of one of the leading questions that's leading into my research. And to help answer that, we're using that camera trap footage that Scott was talking about earlier, where we had over 60,000 camera trap photos that were taken in 2020 at these different rookeries throughout the summer. And from that, we had Zooniverse volunteers that were over 6,000 that were helping to review that footage and give us critical data about what was in these photos. In these photos, you can see that we have some with painted rattles, right? They don't look like Easter bunny rattlesnakes naturally. Those are painted on with nail polish. And each one has an individual code that can tell us which individual we're looking at. And when these snakes were captured, we took important information from them, like how long they were, how much they weighed, their sex, and we can even palpate if they have babies, if they're pregnant. We could see how many ova are inside of the female. So that's a really cool thing. And some of them we also have DNA from, where we can say how related are these snakes to one another. So that's going to be one part of my thesis coming up, where we'll be looking at what are the factors that influence how much time these snakes are spending with each other. And then using the RattleCam, we've been able to identify snakes in a whole new way. And that's through their individual blotch patterns. We have now had 21 snakes named successfully, which is super exciting. I was hoping for 20 at the beginning of the year. I was like, if we could get 20, that would be absolutely amazing. And we've just overshot it. And we still have more snakes that we're able to name that are coming online. So very excited about that, and very grateful to all of you who've submitted our named snakes and have gotten to know them through this. And by knowing these snakes as individuals, we can track their behavior throughout the summer and see how it's changing, right? Or see who they're spending time with. And so from the live stream, we've seen that rattlesnakes will care for each other. So here's a video kind of demonstrating that. We see there's a bird or something that came by and startled the snakes. You'll notice the babies are breathing heavily. There's a lot of tongue flicking going on. And they're retreating into the clown car. And look, there's an adult. Predator is nowhere in sight. But there's an adult snake kind of coming in and checking out what's going on, right? And we see in other cases, right, where we as a potential predator approach a mother rattlesnake, we could see her shuffle her babies back into safety and defend them. So some really cool behaviors that we've gotten to observe of these snakes. And in this context, right, I was coming into my research thinking a lot about the maternal care, what's the role of moms in all of this. But we've seen that it's not just moms that have relationships with each other, right? So here is our most popular snake, Thor, and there he is curled up with a little baby in his coils. And I'm going to play a video for you showing other types of interactions that we've seen on the camera. So you see it here approaches another little baby. And now that the baby's touched and smelled Thor, starting to twitch, right? You might have heard us talk about there's some sort of secret language or communication that we're not sure exactly what these snakes are saying, but you'll see now Thor is cueing in on it, right? And he's twitching too. And so this is a greeting? You know, are they saying hello to each other? Is it just a way of saying, hey, you're safe? We don't really know. We're still trying to figure that out. But it's really cool to see this type of interaction between snakes that we wouldn't normally think of as having an interaction, right? An adult male and a baby, we wouldn't normally associate with one another. Just a few minutes later, another snake comes by. And you can see her coming down. This is an adult female. I get surprised every time. Did you see what the baby just did there? He kind of lunged. We'll play it again so that you can see again. They're just so funny. What I think this is probably a baby mistaking that motion for prey or something like that, right? And just having a fast reflex. We've seen snakes react like that to other non-prey objects before. I have some colleagues that have studied that in other vipers. And then here is maybe the most common interaction that we've seen with Thor, which is his more amorous head jerking and twitching toward the female. And he soon abandons the baby that he was spending time with. So those are some of the really cool behaviors and things that we've learned from watching the snakes. And we're going to continue this, right? So the snakes are starting to hibernate very soon. And we want to continue up this momentum of all of your support and interest. And so one of the things that we're going to look at is we have this database of named snakes, and they were named throughout the season, right? Some were named in July, some in September, but those snakes were likely still around throughout the year. And so we're going to need your help to go back through those live streams that are posted on our YouTube channel from earlier in the year and identify when were these different snakes active on the camera to give us a sense of when they are. And as a reminder, we're using those unique blotch patterns. So getting your skills set for how to use and observe these patterns in the snakes will be really helpful. And then the second part of this is once we know when these snakes are showing up, we want to annotate the videos of when those snakes are present. So essentially recording what behaviors are they doing just as we're watching, writing down in great detail. I'll create an ethogram, which is a framework for observing the behaviors. And that way you as a viewer could annotate these videos yourself and contribute to my research studying what sort of activities and what sort of behaviors we're seeing these snakes do. If you're interested in contributing to either of the things that I just talked about, we will have a link in the QR code here, and we'll post it in the chat as well. And that's basically an interest survey to say, I'm interested in either helping to identify snakes or in annotating videos. And I'd be really appreciate it if you filled that out. And we'll be posting more information on how you can contribute to that in the next couple of weeks. That is what I have to share with you. Thanks all for listening. Tanya, do we have any questions?
We have several questions. We have a total of 11 questions.
Let's do one question for Owen now, and then we
Yeah.
can get to the rest of them later.
Okay, let's see. I don't know if there was one specific. Well, yeah. Do we use AI to identify them by their patterns?
That is a great question. And it's something that I was really interested in doing. A lot of the tools that have been developed for identifying animals by their unique patterns rely on having a set point of view or angle, or shapes that remain constant in their conformation, right? So you can imagine the bottom of a turtle shell or a humpback whale's fluke. With the RattleCam and also the nature of snakes, they're very windy, right? And so the relative position of these different shapes can change a lot, which makes it harder to use as AI tools. But it's something that I'd be interested in developing in the future.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks,
all.
Owen.
Now we're going to switcheroo.
All right.
All right.
Now we have Max.
Oh, I can just take my computer. You can stay there.
Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm Max, and I want to talk to you a little bit about rattlesnake thermoregulation and just regulating body conditions. So to start off with that, I want to show you this video that we caught back in August of a snake basking in the evening sun. And so it might seem like this snake doesn't have a care in the world. It's kind of just there resting, enjoying the evening light. But there's actually a lot more that is going on here than you might think. So rattlesnakes, like other reptiles, are ectotherms, meaning that they get their internal body temperature from heat in the environment. So many of you are probably familiar that snakes, when they want to warm up, they go to a nice warm spot. In this case, like a partially sunny space, and they get warmth from either the sun or also the rocks underneath them. And so this snake is probably very purposefully doing being in this spot so that it can gain that warmth, and it is probably a pregnant female that is also trying to facilitate the development of her embryos. But there's also other things going on too. So snakes also have to think about, or have to regulate how much water loss they have. So they want to reduce water loss, especially if it's in a really dry environment and they need to conserve water. There are also other factors too, such as photoregulation. So they have to move in the environment to adjust how much light that their body gets. This is especially impactful for UV exposure. So if you are on the beach on a sunny day and you get too much exposure to UV light, that can be really bad and you get sunburnt. Snakes are the same way. They have a certain amount of UV that they can take in. So there's all of these things that snakes have to think about in order to maintain their normal body function. And then it's not just individual snakes that monitor this, but as we know from watching the RattleCam, rattlesnakes at these den sites and rookeries can also be really communal, and they spend a lot of time together. So here you see a fast-forwarded video of a bunch of babies huddling together, and there could be a lot of reasons for this, including some of the social interactions that Owen was talking about. But there's also evidence that this may actually help snakes to retain body heat. And it may also play in those other factors I was mentioning, such as reducing water loss or maybe adjusting their exposure to light. So there's all of these things that I'm kind of interested in understanding how these different behaviors may be impacted by these different environmental conditions. So to study this, there's few things should know about. So those of you who've been watching the live stream may know that there's a link in the live stream description where you can see the weather conditions at the site, and those are updated every 15 minutes, and they are taken from this Davis Instruments weather station, which you see right here. And so I'm collecting weather data from this every 15 minutes throughout the season that the snakes are active. And this records air temperature, wind speed, like high wind gust. It records humidity and the UV index, among a bunch of other variables. Some of you may have also noticed these little instruments placed in the bushes at the den from time to time. And these are data loggers that we have connected to operative temperature models. So what these are on the right are these metal pipes that have a temperature probe inside them. And they're designed in their shape to record the available temperatures that a snake's body could possibly be at certain conditions. So we have two sets of operative temperature models, or OTMs. The first we have in like a sunny location where we can kind of see an area that gets more exposed to warmer temperatures and more light. So what like the upper level of a snake's body temperature could be. Then we have set in the shade, which is kind of like a more preserved and lower temperature. And for both of those sets, we have one large OTM and one small OTM to measure the temperatures of adults versus baby snakes, since body size can really impact how the body temperature of a snake is. So we're collecting that data at half-hour intervals. And so I'm getting all of this environmental data on the conditions that the snakes at the den are being exposed to. At the same time, I've been working with Owen and the many students and volunteers that have been working the camera to collect snapshots at 4 different positions of the den at half-hour intervals. So first, we collect images from the boulder pile, which you can see here. This is kind of like our main rock formation at the den. Then there's the baby shelf, which is a little bit to the lower left of the boulder pile. And also this area among the oaks, further to the left. During the heat of the day, this is one of the areas we have the camera focused on a lot, because the snakes usually go there in the shade of the oaks. And then lower rocks, which is an area that we kind of have a lot of snakes at in the evenings when it's cooler, or the morning before it's really heated out. And so again, I've been taking these snapshots at these 4 positions every half hour throughout much of the season. And this is allowing me to basically capture a image of what the snakes are doing at any given time, and to look at what sort of behaviors are being observed. So I plan to combine these with the weather data to be able to associate behavior with certain weather conditions. And so to kind of understand that more, here's a little sped up video of a snake coming out the basque. Some of the things that I'm recording for the behavior are their body posture. So are they coiled, or are they stretched out? Also looking at where they are in the environment, like are they in a very exposed area that is exposed to the elements? Are they relatively sheltered? And then also, are they in the shade? So like the 3 snakes here on the right are mostly shaded, but then there's 2 on the left here that are more in the sun. So kind of thinking about their positioning in the environment. These are all things that the snakes can change in order to adjust how their body is interacting with the environment. And so my goal of this is to be able to not just understand how these behaviors of the snakes are impacted by changes in weather, but also to take that and kind of extrapolate that to understand how snake activity patterns may change in the future with climate change. And that is a little bit about my research, and I'll be happy to take a question.
Tanya, is there a question related to that someone has asked?
Yeah, so we just got one. Do the garters have babies among the rattlesnakes?
Yeah, so we haven't noticed while we've been watching the camera any births of garter snakes at the den. But we did notice earlier in the season, this was like in June and early July, that we did have a garter snake that was hanging out at the den and seems to be a pregnant female that was holding babies. And so we were interested in trying to keep an eye on her, seeing if we could see if she gave birth at the site, but we weren't able to locate the babies for that garter snake. So we weren't sure if she just stayed while they were developing and had left to give birth. We're not really sure what happened there.
Thanks, Max.
Okay. Ready to switcheroo again? You want to switch with me, Max? Okay, we're getting closer to that big announcement. But actually, you guys are probably all just as excited to see this part of it. We're going to answer some questions that you've all had for quite some time now. We put our little devil horns on here now as we go on. All right, so we'll take you now behind the scenes to the Colorado den. And while, you all have been interacting with us in the chat, and we've been, here in California, either sitting on our couch or sitting in the lab, working on these things. We actually went to Colorado in early September to check on the snakes. And while we were there, yes, we did play a little prank. You may be able to notice on the left-hand side something that shouldn't be there. And here's a better photo for you to notice it. The infamous banana. So let me explain what the banana was all about. So we went in early September for several reasons. One was shamelessly wanting to see the babies in person. So we don't want to interact with the snakes. We don't want to impact these snakes, which is why we have this remote live cam. We don't want their behavior to be impacted by us. So we would go like really early in the morning. And then many of you know that there's a 15-minute blackout time when the camera turns off. Well, we also were there for important reasons. Max needed to collect some of his data logger data, and Owen needed to go and measure some of the rocks. And so we were sitting there behind the camera, literally, as you guys were all watching. And as soon as the camera turned off, oh wait, sorry, I'll go back to this. I messed that up. This is what we would do. So the camera is off right now in those 15 minutes, and Max is out there with taking photos. Owen and him like rushing around for like in 15 minutes time to be able to do all this and not be detected by you all. And we would like barely make it every single time. And we did put the banana out there, like I said before, as a little prank. So the banana caused quite a stir. So here's some of the chats, right? The Colorado banana rattlesnake banana conspiracy. Lots of people had ideas about how the banana got there. Lots of like fell out of a balloon, an eagle dropped it, all kinds of things. Some philosophizing about the banana. Of course, some people were just legitimately, worried about the banana too, but most people were just making jokes. And of course, this was my favorite. We were back at the Airbnb staying there, and how it got there is the big question. And of course, they start teasing people, and people were onto us by that point. We can answer any question for $64,000, Ron. Any question? Okay, and then we started to get into Monty Python then, everything just kind of went down, right? So we apologize for anyone who we stressed out about that banana, but the banana was there just to have a little fun with you all. And so, like I said, when we were there, we collected all kinds of data. You can see Max's OTMs here behind him. We also did something really cool. So if you look to the left of those oak trees, this is the back side of the oaks that are on the camera. So Max is now setting up a camera on a place that our camera can't see. So most of the day we would sit back there, and there's a place where the snakes sometimes go. They crawl through the oaks and they'll go here. And what Max put up here was a special camera that is different from what we see. So we see this sped up, right? We're just seeing the snakes as they move through. the environment. But what Max put on them on the back side there was a thermal imaging camera. So how cool is this? We're watching as the snakes that are in the cool back, shown by blue, part of the refugium, come out and warm up. And look at how when they warm up in the sun, their little noses are staying cool as they breathe through their noses. So there's a nice cold snake coming out. I want you to watch that snake as it curls up in the sun and it starts to heat up. And we took a lot of data on this for Max's research. And while we were back there watching, we would see some interesting things. Like snakes of different sizes coming and going, then moving back and forth. And then that, who's that? Anybody guess? Rubbing his head all over everybody? Okay, so that was Thor. And the funny thing about this was taking place in the beginning of September, when Thor had disappeared from the live stream camera for a while. And everyone was like, where's Thor? Well, we figured it out. Thor was just back behind the oaks trying to mate with the females that were over there. We saw one more really cool thing while we were there. While we were sitting there watching, we saw some rustling in the leaves and we looked down and we weren't going anywhere near the snake because we didn't want to ever disturb them. We were always far from the snakes. And so we pulled up in our binoculars and saw some fur. Well, you know how we tell you that the snakes never eat at the den? They don't usually. Well, we saw one eating. I'm going out of order. We saw a snake with the wood rat in its mouth, dragging it back into the oak trees. And so it turns out that snakes do occasionally eat there. That's something that we learned that we never knew before, which I think was pretty interesting. Poor Thor, I just went back past him. You all know that Thor is easily detectable by the fact that he had this ant attached to his lip for a long time back in June. While we were there, we were able to capture some of these ants and get them identified. Of course, I forgot to write down what they are, but I know what they are now. And to this day, 4 months later, Seth has a swollen lip still. This is really interesting scientifically. What is it in the ant's poison that is, doing that to his lip? Really interesting questions still left to answer. So I wanted to reiterate some of the opportunities that we spoke about earlier for you to continue to be involved. And one of these, the top one here, is something that we haven't mentioned yet. So some colleagues of ours actually are going to be hosting a workshop. Colleagues of ours at Advocates for Snake Preservation are hosting a workshop to learn to identify individual snakes. So many of you are already kind of like pros at this, right? You've already figured out how to do this. Well, there's a person named John who does this pretty regularly in person at snakes on his property. And it turns out he got on the live cam when the babies were born, and he identified 100 of our babies by their markings, which is just mind-blowing. And he's really good at learning to identify individual snakes by their markings. So you're invited to take this free 1 hour, I think, webinar on Monday, November 4th. Again, we will send you all of these links later in a follow-up email, or you can go ahead and join right now. And then this one on the bottom is Owen's link again, where you can help annotate recordings from 2024. And also, of course, join him in helping to go back to some of the earlier data to be able to identify some of those snakes. So I want to just remind everyone that, even though we're doing this for a lot of reasons, right? We love to watch snakes and to collect these data, but this is truly a community science endeavor. We did this project not just so you could watch it, but so that you could participate in it. And you really have so far. You've really played important roles in identifying these snakes, in watching the camera when we're sleeping, because as much as we'd like to stay up all night, I did have to sleep occasionally at night, couldn't stay up all night, and alerting us to things that happened while we were offline. So many things that you have done that has been really helpful to us, and we want to continue that with you as community scientist partners. There's other things that we're doing as well. Maybe in your life, a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade teacher, or an elementary school administrator, or maybe one of your kids' teachers is really cool and you want to tell them about this. Well, we've been working on an offshoot project called RattleEd, where we are hoping to improve elementary school student perceptions of rattlesnakes by having them watch the RattleCam in class and do science on the RattleCam. So this is Joy and Ariel. They are 2 Cal Poly undergraduates who are going to be teachers And so for their research project, they designed, along with some other students, some a third to fourth and fifth grade curriculum for the students to watch the RattleCam in their class and collect data off of the RattleCam and to be able to demystify this concept of rattlesnakes. So we'd love to hear from you as well there if you know any people who could help us with that. We're hoping to roll that out in next year. Okay, so now what we'd like to do is to take a couple minutes to give you the opportunity to say what the cam has meant to you. So we have half an hour left. Of course, the big announcement is going to be coming at the end. And so we're going to take a little while for you to have a chance to do this. When I asked you to fill out the sign up sheet for this webinar, we asked you what the RattleCam had meant to you there. And what I did was I made a word cloud from all of your texts, which is why there's so many little words, because there's lots of different words. But I want you to notice what some of the things that popped up. Obviously, rattlesnakes did, but the biggest word on here is love. And I find that really interesting. I think that people were saying things like, I love watching this, or I love it when Thor does that. And we are not a average slice of the population when it comes to people who love rattlesnakes or love watching rattlesnakes. But there were many of you who didn't feel that way before you were compelled to start watching this. And like some of you were like me, you already loved snakes until you thought this was really cool. But some of you have expressed to us that you were scared of snakes or that you hated snakes or whatever, and that this really changed things for you. So what I'd like to do is to take a little while to invite several of you. I'd ask you to raise your hands, and then let's have Tanya call on, raise your hands, meaning there's like a little thing in Zoom where you can click raise hand, or you can just go like this, whatever best. We're not gonna, I think, be able to get through everybody, but we'll get through some people. And, try to keep it pretty brief. Tell us in just a few sentences what the RattleCam meant to you. And so we can have a big RattleCam love fest. And what we'll do is just, Tanya, if you could just kind of call one person after the next, and you can unmute yourself to talk and then mute yourself after you're done.
All right, if you guys can use the raise hand button.
It's always the first person who's nervous to do it, but then it'll open the floodgates. You don't have to have your camera on either, but would love for you to tell us.
All right, we got Eva Lacey. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I've been cleaning my house all day, so I'm not turning on my camera. This has been wonderful to watch. I knew Emily as a graduate student at Arizona State, and I've just been so proud of Emily and all of her work over the years. And I work at University of Colorado Boulder, and I was at happy hour with a friend, and we were all sitting around, and somebody said something about rattlesnakes, and I said, "Oh yeah, I love this rattlesnake thing," and that I watched, and this colleague of mine was like, "RattleCam" or something, and I said, "You know RattleCam? I know RattleCam," and like I actually know RattleCam, and it was just so amazing that somebody I would never have thought was watching the snakes. So it has just been, and because of my personal passion for STEM education and just getting everything out there at every possible level, I just think it is amazing, and it's been such a great opportunity, and I'm sure it's just going to blow up in a good way.
Thank you so much, Eva. Don't be shy. Tell us, please. There we go.
All right, looks like Carmen. I think you are next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I just want to say that so I'm from North Carolina. I grew up on a pretty large farm, and snakes were sort of regarded as not necessarily an enemy for us, because obviously we knew that there were benefits to having them around for, rat catching, things like that. But I have a little brother who is way too curious with his hands about everything. And so snakes, no matter what, venomous or not, usually didn't make it out alive, because it's an unfortunate side effect of a handsy little brother. But later in life, the same brother actually got bitten by a copperhead, and it unlocked a bunch of crazy medical stuff for him. It's a long story that's not meant for sharing here, but even into adulthood, that fear and yeah, fear's the right word, sort of continued. And watching this camera, I actually was a little hesitant to even talk to my brother about it, because I thought maybe he would think, "Oh my gosh, you're crazy. Like, we don't do snakes in our family." But instead, he thought it was really cool. And even my mom, who's deathly afraid of snakes, thought it was, interesting. And I don't know, my entire perception about these animals has just completely changed. If I were to see a rattlesnake in the wild now, I don't think that, obviously some healthy boundaries would be set. I would respect that space, but it would not be my first thought to call somebody to say, "Oh my gosh, there's a snake here. You got to come take care of it," etc. I have such an interesting and much greater respect for these animals now than I did before. And I just think it's amazing what you've done here, because I have seen so many people come onto the YouTube chat and say, "I'm so afraid of snakes. Oh my gosh." And instead of being greeted with, "Oh, get out of here, we're snake people," it's like, "Hi, welcome. If you watch these snakes for even 5 minutes or stay with us for the day, you'll see the difference, and we will convert you to be a snake person just like us." And it happens. It happens almost every single time. And I think that's really incredible. So, yeah,
Thank you, Carmen.
yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
of course. Thank you.
Looks like our next person up is Jaxper.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So I have always grown up absolutely loving snakes. I grew up with like the Crocodile Hunter and stuff like that, Steve Irwin. I've always loved snakes since I was very little. And I recently moved in with my fiance, well, recently, like 4 years ago, but still. And he is absolutely terrified of snakes. He hates them so much, or at least when we first met and stuff like that. But this, through the Project RattleCam, I have it up every single day. It's been part of my morning routine ever since May, when it first started. I'll come downstairs and I'll load up all my tabs, and Rattlesnake Cam is one of the first things I launch up on my computer. And so it's sitting there on my second monitor just all day. And my fiance will sometimes sit here at the computer doing his video games or whatever, and he'll look over, and he's gone from absolutely hating them to not liking them, but respecting them at the very least. And sometimes he'll be like, "Hey, hon, come over here. Look, the rattlesnakes are doing something cool on camera." And it's been very interesting to watch him change to an animal that I love so much.
Awesome. Thank you, and thank him.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we've got Melissa Thompson.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Uh, I guess I didn't really grow up loving snakes very much. I've always been afraid of them, but the last few years I've started to appreciate, things like insects, stuff like that. But this summer I was really, really stressed out at work, and of course there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I turned on that snake cam every morning at work, and seeing those snakes in their communal setting, seeing just even watching them like breathing and drinking when it was raining, it just really relaxed me. And like I said in the chat, it turned me into a little bit of a snake evangelist, because I would tell everybody who wanted to and who did not want to listen, about how cool rattlesnakes are and what interesting things they do. I'm always posting about them on Instagram, and I think once I told my parents I had really exciting news, and they're like, "What?" you getting married to your boyfriend? And I was like, no, I watched a live rattlesnake birth this morning. And so yeah, everybody knows a lot about rattlesnakes now, thanks to me watching this. So thank you for everything you've done with this. Really educational, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for spreading the word about it, Melissa.
Sure.
That's awesome. Okay, and next up is Susan. Looks like you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I was a big rattlesnake. Do not go near them. Don't want to see them. Don't want to touch them. Scared to death. And during COVID, all of a sudden, snake channels started showing up on my YouTube channel. And I got to know snakes. And then I came across your RattleCam because where I live in a 26,000 acre forested community. So in my backyard, I have rattlesnakes, copperheads, and cottonmouths. And in it's the state of Arkansas, and you're not allowed to kill these snakes. You have to call animal control to come get them. But I find your rattle cam. My family thinks I've lost my mind. Nobody wants to talk to me about it. They think I've gone off the deep end, or I might have Alzheimer's or something. But they are so calming to watch, and I find their individuality just amazing. You think rattlesnakes are all just the same thing. They just, you know, uh, just there to get you, and they really aren't. They just want to be left alone. And if you see one, you just should turn around and walk away and don't agitate it. And you guys have answered every question I have ever asked during this whole time, and I really appreciate it. I'm so sad that it's going to go off for the winter. I wish you could stick something down in the den so we could see. And I also think you all are also so brave to get as close as you do, because I would not do that. I'm still not at that level of bravery yet. But I just really wanted to thank you. And the community in the chat has been so loving and so respectful. And I am not a tech person. And I can't tell you how many of the people in the chat have helped me connect to Discord server, helped me connect to this webinar. It's just been a wonderful experience, and I hope you do it next year so bad. I can't wait, and I hope the same snakes come back out in the spring. So thank all three of you that I see, and the doctor that at the beginning explaining the thirst. It's been fascinating, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, and then Karen is the last person with a hand raised right now.
Hi, yeah, unmuting. I just wanted to reiterate, Susan kind of said what I wanted to say about the warmth of the people on the chat, as well as the calmness that the snakes provide, but the patience of the Project Rattle camera operators, because you can't be on the chat for very long, but notice all of us newbies coming on and asking many of the same questions. So they're very patient with it, and so are the people on the chat. This is not a place where you're afraid to ask questions, and everyone is very kind and welcoming. And I just appreciate the group that did this, the Project RattleCam, all of their team, and all the people who make this probably the best chat that I've ever been a part of. So thank you again.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, and then the next person up is Emma Schilling. And then next we'll have Kim, and that will be the end of our time.
Hi, everyone. Just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yeah.
I used to be out in the outdoors taking a lot of pictures of reptiles and different lizards and things like that, and I could spend hours and get lost doing it, and have since just had a lot of medical issues where I can't do it anymore. And so being able to watch the snakes and, watch all the different things that they're doing and being able to be part of it is just, it brings it back to me. And it's something that I've really missed. And I really appreciate that because like I was literally like, okay, can I put up my a camera next to yours too? Like if I paid you guys, could you guys put it out for me and I'll take care of it. Anything that you want, you can have. But I really do appreciate everything you guys do and just thank you. It's something that takes my mind off everything. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you. And then Kim, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was having troubles. Anyway, I just echoing everybody, thank you so very much. At a point in my life years ago, I worked in a zoo and they tried to get me to work in the reptile house and I couldn't do it. My dad, when I grew up on a ranch, tormented me with snakes and I've always been scared to death of them. And lo and behold, along comes Project RattleCam, and I am the biggest fan. I've never seen anything like it. I can't quit talking about it. I watch it at work, or I've been watching it all summer at my new job, even. And the guys come up and they watch it with me. And, it's just opened up a whole new world for not just myself, but people I work with. And it's just thank you so much for that. It's changed, taken a fear, a very deep seated fear, into something that it's been such a huge learning experience and now I'm sharing it with the world around me. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's been brought to my attention, I guess, HP. It looks like you.
Go ahead, HP. You're the last one. You go ahead and go real quick for time.
Yeah, there we go.
Hi, yeah. I'm actually in the UK, so never seen a live rattlesnake as such. But I've really enjoyed this. Unfortunately, I didn't join in until about the beginning of August, when a friend of mine introduced me to it. So this is my first year. I'll definitely be joining in again. I've found it so relaxing and peaceful watching them. They really are beautiful animals, and it really is a shame that they are so frowned upon and abused and everything by rattlesnake roundups and skin trade and all this. And really and truly, I was just wondering what was happening about this. Is anything at all being done to stop all this? Because I understand that some of the species of rattlesnakes are actually becoming extinct because of all this.
Yeah, thanks, H. So we'll use that as I'll answer your question as we transition towards the last part of the talk. So rattlesnake roundups actually used to be very, very common throughout the United States, and most of them have either kind of just gone away or have been changed into wildlife festivals. Recently in Georgia, a long-running rattlesnake roundup was changed to a rattlesnake festival that is now no kill and is bringing in a lot more people than ever before. It's really difficult for the ones that remain in Oklahoma and Texas because the people there, kind of have it as part of the identity of their town. It's very, very, very complicated. But yes, many of us are trying in whatever way we can, including this, right? This is a way to try to change people's minds about rattlesnakes. When people see rattlesnakes as individuals, as long-lived animals that have social lives and friends and family members, it can help to change their minds in ways that can help leverage people to rise up against those types of horrific events. So thank you for watching, and thank you everyone for sharing your experiences with this. It does my heart a lot of good to know that our goals are working, and that people are appreciating it and enjoying it. Of course, there we go. I've already done that. I know that you all have stayed for this hour and a half so that you could hear this. That's probably all that you really actually cared about, was hearing what the big announcement was. There's been a lot of people on the chat trying to figure out what it was, and none of you know what it is. There's no way you're gonna know what it is. This is very exciting. I can't wait to tell you what it all is. So we can have kind of make a drum roll. Let's do a drum roll. We ready to hear what it is? I'm excited to announce to you RattleCam Pennsylvania in 2026, where we are going to be able to watch beautiful timber rattlesnakes on the east coast of the United States, out basking in the sun, where we've got some animals that are more black, some animals that are more yellow. Absolutely stunning animals that are very, very, very different in terms of their ecology and behavior than prairie rattlesnakes or the western rattlesnakes. Imagine being able to sit maybe a little earlier too, because it's on the East Coast, and be able to watch these beauties. So the story behind this, of course, I can't tell you very much right now because since it's, but I bet a bunch of you are like, why isn't it 2025? Well, it takes a long time to fundraise and plan for these. But we're going to try to keep the locations secret, as well as the wonderful host, the herpetologist in Pennsylvania, who has helped us find these areas and who has taken these photos. We're going to keep all that secret, but the very fun thing is that, oh, there's also some of these, not just timber rattlesnakes, we have other snakes in some of these as well, like garter snakes and other things too. But what we're going to be able to do for the next while is share with you some of these images. I love this one because it shows like the dark females on top and then the light yellow females on the bottom, and then look at all the babies. We're going to be able to share footage with you throughout the winter. So just like Dr. Boback and I, with the beginning of Project RattleCam Colorado being the time lapse, our wonderful top secret host in Pennsylvania has time lapse movies of timber rattlesnake dens throughout Pennsylvania. And we're going to be sharing those movies with you periodically throughout the winter on our YouTube so that you can start getting ready for this. Here's one. Whoa, bobcats. So one of the things I think is so amazing, it's just looping now, about these sites is how many other types of wildlife are on these cams. There's bears walking by. There's hawks coming and eating the babies. There's all kinds of things going on. So slowly through the winter, we will introduce you to those so that you can start getting excited about our timber rattlesnakes. Before I go on and tell you more about this, I did want to mention, I know a lot of you keep asking, is the Colorado Cam going to be back next year? We hope yes, that is the goal. We 100% hope that that's the case. It's all set to go. We need to get permission from the landowner to continue. And so I'm gonna, be having those conversations with them in a month or two after the RattleCam has been turned off. We also don't know when we're gonna turn it off. We're gonna keep the RattleCam on until snakes are no longer active. So you will be able to watch the Colorado Cam for a while longer. I want to say huge thanks for the 2026 Plan Cam. We have a Rattlesnake Ranch in Cave Creek, Arizona, has actually donated funds to pay for the entire camera, which is a huge amount of funds to pay for that. Very, very, very excited. And now is when we begin our fundraiser for all of the remaining equipment and travel and the streaming fees and other expenses. This whole endeavors are very, very expensive because me and that team of fabricators have to travel to the area and stay there and put all this in. And remember, it's all, custom made devices. It's all, it's very expensive to do it. And one of the things that's so wonderful about this project is that it is funded, but it's 100% donor funded, the Colorado Cam. It's funded by people and it's made for people. So it's not just, a research project where I got funding from the government and then you never see what comes out of it because it's all in a scientific paper somewhere. This is really all about you. And so we ask you to help with fundraising for that reason. And you've been awesome so far. Many of you who are in the chat a lot know that we have a wonderful donor who is going to be tripling all of our donations that we get from all of our swag and the new calendars. So if you didn't know yet, we have new 2025 calendars that you can order through today, by the way. You should all go order it right now. Because we have for all of the swag on the website, all of the proceeds from this are going to get tripled, and that will go all the way through November, but we have free shipping today with the code Colorado, and it ends today. So go on there and load up your carts with stuff, because this is a way to make a donation to the 2026 RattleCam, and you also get something out of it. The calendar is going to be super awesome. So it's not shown here, but Thor is Mr. February. And then April here, we see that. So we tried to really, Max, you found all the photos? Did you guys?
Mhm.
Yeah, Max found all the photos. These are all screenshots from the Colorado Cam. So it's going to be really, really, really great. And we hope that you will all go and buy those things. In addition, our YouTube channel is monetized. And so many of you know this, right? That you watch an ad sometimes when you look at the old clips. Some of you have been donating to us in the chat. That's super awesome. We've already raised $1,000 so far doing that. That's all going to get tripled as well. So these things are all been really successful. We've gotten a head start on this fundraising, and we thank you so heartily for that. And that's why we wanted to make this awesome gear so that you can get something along with your donations.
Emily, quick question about the calendar. Someone wants to know if the snakes are named in the calendar.
Yes, so in the calendars, you'll see that there's like a little caption on the bottom. So when we do know which snake it is, we have wrote the name of the snake, like Thor. We have one of Thor with a female, of course. And then we have one of Thea babysitting a bunch of babies. And so we name the names there. But in some of them, we don't know the names. So
Awesome, thank you.
So I wanted to thank all of you and to thank the people who made this happen again. So the design and fabrication facility from the Bailey College of Science and Mathematics at Cal Poly, their staff, Doug and Rob and Kevin, have been absolutely amazing. None of this would ever happen without them. The ranch owner and manager in Colorado, who I can't mention by name because we're keeping this all private, but they've just been incredibly generous with allowing us to work on their property. This is why it's so important for us to maintain that anonymity so that people don't go trespassing on their property and making things difficult for everyone. So thank you everyone for that. The student cam operators, y'all, not just Owen and Max, but all the undergrads, they've been doing this they're not getting paid for this. They're just doing this as volunteers, 12 hours a day collectively for 5 months. It is so much work. So thank you to all of them. To the volunteers, there's a number of volunteers like Tanya, who's an amazing volunteer for everything that we do, who's moderating this chat tonight. Thank you for all of your time and effort. Rattlesnake Ranch, Arizona, for the new camera that's going to be going in. And again, our Pennsylvania host, who I will eventually name, but we're going to keep it secret for now to protect the identity of the den. And then all of you donors and viewers who help us, get this project going every day. I envision these live cams one day being shown at multiple zoos. They're up at a few zoos right now. 7 zoos right now. More zoos, more natural history museums, more classrooms, right? All of this to help people learn and to make a difference in the lives of rattlesnakes and the perceptions of rattlesnakes. So thank everyone very, very much. So it's basically time now. I think that, Tanya, is there like one really good question that I could answer to finish up?
Well, there is a question that got asked more than once. People want to know how many snakes there are at the location. Do we
Okay, that's a great question. So some of you may have seen, the news media saying 2,000 snakes are at this spot. And some of you may have seen people saying, what, I can only see a couple, The truth is that it's really hard to know exactly how many there are, because we have the snakes that we see on our camera. And like I told you before, there's a whole other area on the hill where they can go back there. There are other dens in the area too. And there could be that snakes moving back and forth between these dens. We think that the collective group of dens in this area has as many as 2,000 rattlesnakes in it. In terms of our den and the spot that we're at, my guess, it's just a guess right now, is several hundred. When we have those babies out there, I think it could be getting close to maybe 400. It's really hard to know specifically, but definitely in the hundreds. And then, yeah, many such dens like this in Colorado. So prairie rattlesnakes are doing great. Lots of them reproducing at these dens and rookeries, and giving us this amazing show that only we know about and they don't know about. It's pretty amazing. So thank you so much, everyone. This recording is going to be put on YouTube so that you can watch it again if you'd like, and you can share it with other people. Reminder that the free shipping with code Colorado ends today. So go and pre-order your calendars and your t-shirts and stuff now. And thank you again for everything that you've done. We will send a follow-up email that has all of the important links on how you can continue to help throughout the winter. We'll still be on the cam for a while yet until the snakes decide it's time to hibernate. And until then, thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for participating. Good night, everybody. Okay, go ahead.
So.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Karen. I'm in Rochester, Minnesota, and I'm K Reviews. I don't know if we're introducing ourselves, but thank you for holding this. I've been looking.
Hello.
Now talk. And then you can message her there.
Okay.
Hello, I can't hear a thing. Oh, this is hopeless.
You there?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Please turn off your microphone and we will get started momentarily. I am Emily Taylor and I'm so excited for this webinar tonight. This shows you the outline that we are going to be following this evening. And we're going to show you this outline regularly as we go through the presentation. So before I continue on and we start with introductions and all the things we're going to be doing tonight, I wanted to go over a quick few rules that are going to be important because we have such a big crowd here tonight. So first of all, there's going to be a chance later on for us to hear from you, but during the presentation, we'd like you to keep your mic muted until we invite you to unmute. And that's going to be so that everyone can then hear us talking instead of background noise. Regarding your camera, you can keep that off or on. That's fine with us either way. And if you have questions about the snakes, about the science you're hearing about, things like that, we want you to go ahead and type those out in the chat. We have a moderator who is watching those tonight, and they're going to keep track of some of those and then ask us those questions during Q&A part so we can answer those. And then at the very end, when we have time, we will invite you to ask questions again if we didn't have a chance to answer those. And then finally, another rule of the evening tonight is please no speculation